Lisa Martinez wiped the grease from her hands on her work pants and looked at the broken air recycler one more time. The machine made a strange humming sound that told her it would break down completely in about 3 days. She made a note on her tablet and moved to the next repair job on her list. Life on the new horizon was quiet for Lisa. She fixed things that broke, cleaned things that got dirty, and stayed out of everyone's way. Most of the crew did not even know her name. They called her the maintenance girl, or that quiet one from engineering. Lisa did not mind. She liked being invisible. The new horizon was not like other ships. It carried important people who made big decisions about war and peace. Ambassador Richard Stone walked around in fancy clothes and talked to alien leaders on video calls. His team of diplomats spent their days reading reports and practicing speeches. They were heading to Centauri Trade Station for the most important meeting in human history. 2 alien races had been fighting for over 300 years. The Xanthari Empire and the Vex Collective hated each other so much that they destroyed entire planets just to hurt their enemies. Millions had died. Now somehow, both sides wanted to talk about peace. The meeting would happen at the neutral trade station, and humans would help them find a way to stop fighting. Lisa knew all this because she heard the crew talking about it. She also knew that everyone was nervous. This peace talk could change everything. If it worked, the galaxy would be safer. If it failed, the war would get worse. The ship also carried someone very special for the meeting. Antoine Beaumont was the most famous chef in human space. He had cooked for presidents and kings. He had written 20 books about food. His restaurants were so popular that people waited years just to get a table. The aliens thought sharing food was very important for making friends, so Antoine would cook a special dinner for the peace talks. Lisa had seen Antoine a few times in the hallways. He was a tall man with a big mustache who talked very loudly about spices and sauces. He traveled with 3 assistants who carried his special knives and secret ingredients. Even Captain Patricia Wells, who ran the whole ship, seemed nervous around him. Lisa was checking the water pipes in Section 7 when the alarm started ringing. Red lights flashed in the hallways. The ship's voice said, "All crew report to emergency stations. We are experiencing a spatial anomaly." Lisa felt the ship shake and twist in ways that made her stomach hurt. She held onto the pipes until everything stopped moving. The lights went back to normal and the alarm stopped. But something was wrong. She could hear people shouting and running in the corridors above her. She climbed up to the main deck and saw crew members carrying someone on a stretcher. It was Antoine Beaumont. His face was pale and his eyes were closed. Dr. Martinez, the ship's doctor, was running beside the stretcher holding a medical scanner. "What happened?" Lisa asked a security officer. "The spatial anomaly threw him against a wall," the officer said. "Broke his arm and gave him a bad head injury. Doctor says he will be unconscious for at least a week." Lisa felt her heart sink. Without Antoine, there would be no special dinner. Without the dinner, the aliens might feel insulted. Without their respect, the peace talks could fail before they even started. She went back to her work, but she could not stop thinking about the problem. She heard crew members talking in worried voices. Some said they should turn around and go home. Others said they should ask the aliens to wait until Antoine got better. But everyone knew the truth. The aliens had agreed to meet on a specific date. If humans could not keep their promise about the dinner, the aliens would think humans could not keep their promises about peace either. 3 days later, Lisa was eating her lunch alone in the small maintenance break room when communications officer Jake Thompson walked in. He looked tired and frustrated. Captain Wells was with him along with Ambassador Stone and 2 other diplomats Lisa did not know. "We have tried everything," Ambassador Stone was saying. "None of my people know how to cook anything more complicated than instant soup. The aliens will arrive at the station in 4 days." "What about the crew?" Captain Wells asked. "Someone must know how to cook." Jake laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "Captain, most of these people live on food pills and protein bars. The only person I ever see eating real food is—" He stopped talking and looked at Lisa. She was eating a sandwich she had made herself. It had 3 different kinds of cheese, fresh vegetables, and some spices she kept in her locker. "Lisa," Jake said slowly, You make your own food. Everyone turned to look at her. Lisa felt her face get hot. She wished she could disappear. I just like to cook a little, she said quietly. Ambassador Stone walked over to her table. His eyes were desperate. Can you cook for the aliens? Lisa almost laughed. These people had no idea who she was or what she could do. They thought she was just a maintenance worker who made sandwiches. They did not know about the 10 gold medals hidden in her locker. They did not know about the years she spent studying alien biology and chemistry. They did not know that she understood food better than anyone else in human space. I can try, she said. Ambassador Stone looked relieved. Thank you. We will give you whatever help you need. After they left, Lisa sat alone and finished her sandwich. She was scared but also excited. For 5 years, she had been hiding from her old life. She had won the Galactic Culinary Championship 10 times in a row. She had cooked for alien emperors and robot philosophers. But she got tired of the fame and the pressure. She wanted a simple life where nobody expected her to be perfect. Now she had a choice. She could cook simple food and hope for the best. Or she could show them what she really knew how to do. She could create something that would help save the peace talks and maybe prevent another war. Lisa threw away her empty plate and walked toward the kitchen. She had work to do. The next morning, she sent a message to Captain Wells. She needed access to the ship's emergency food supplies and the hydroponics bay. She also needed to order some special ingredients from the trade station. The list was long and expensive. Captain Wells called her to the bridge. Some of these ingredients cost more than my monthly salary, the captain said. Are you sure you need all of this? Lisa looked at the list. She needed crystalline nutrient supplements for the Xanthari. She needed bioluminescent cultures for the Vex. She needed rare spices and chemicals that most humans had never heard of. Yes, she said. I need all of it. Captain Wells signed the order. As Lisa walked back to her quarters, she felt something she had not felt in years. She felt ready to cook something amazing. The New Horizon docked at Centauri Trade Station 2 days later. Lisa had spent the entire journey studying everything she could find about the 2 alien races. She read medical reports about their biology. She watched old videos of their eating habits. She even found some scientific papers about their brain chemistry and how they tasted food. The Xanthari were tall and elegant beings with skin that looked like colored glass. They did not eat regular food like humans did. Instead, they absorbed energy from special minerals and breathed in rare gases. Their whole body worked like a crystal that could vibrate and make music. When they were happy, they glowed softly. When they were angry, they made sounds like breaking glass. The Vex Collective were completely different. They were a group mind that shared thoughts and feelings through chemical smells. Each Vex looked like a giant insect, but they all thought together as one being. They ate living plants and small creatures, but for them, eating was like praying. They believed that taking life to feed themselves was sacred and had to be done with great respect. Lisa knew that cooking for these aliens would be the hardest thing she had ever done. She had to make food that would work for their strange bodies and also show respect for their cultures. One mistake could ruin everything. Captain Wells gave her a team of 3 crew members to help. They were good people, but they knew nothing about cooking. Lisa sent them to gather ingredients while she set up her workspace in the station's main kitchen. The kitchen was huge and filled with equipment from dozens of different worlds. Lisa found machines she had never seen before and ovens that could create any temperature she needed. She also found growing chambers where she could raise special plants and tiny organisms. 2 hours after they arrived at the station, the first alien ship docked. Lisa watched from the kitchen window as the Xanthari delegation walked down the ramp. They moved like dancers, each step perfectly timed with the others. Their leader was called High Curator Veltar. She was taller than the others and her crystal skin had more colors in it. Ambassador Stone met them at the docking bay with all the formal ceremony he could manage. The humans wore their best uniforms and carried flowers as a sign of welcome. But Lisa could see that the Xanthari were not impressed. They looked at the humans the way people might look at children playing dress-up. High Curator Veltar spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. The translator device turned her words into English. We are here because we promised to be here. We do not expect much from this meeting. Humans are young and do not understand the deep hatred between our peoples. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. The Zenthari already thought this meeting was a waste of time. She had to change their minds with her cooking. The next day, the Vex collective ship arrived. It was black and covered with strange bumps and spikes. When the airlock opened, the smell hit everyone immediately. It was sweet and sharp at the same time, like flowers mixed with medicine. The crew members covering the docking bay had to wear breathing masks. The Vex delegation looked exactly like Lisa expected from the videos she had watched. They were as tall as humans but much thinner. Their skin was dark green and shiny. They had 4 arms and large compound eyes that saw in many different directions at once. When they walked, they left a trail of glittering dust that made patterns in the air. Their leader was called Node Prime Clicks. Unlike the Zenthari, Node Prime Clicks did not speak out loud. Instead, the creature released clouds of scented chemicals that the translator had to analyze and convert to words. We taste your fear, the translated voice said. You smell of doubt and worry. This does not make us confident in your ability to bring peace. Ambassador Stone tried to explain that humans were just nervous because they wanted the meeting to go well. But Lisa could see that he was making things worse. His voice was too loud, and he was sweating. The Vex could probably smell his anxiety. From across the room, Lisa decided she needed to see both alien groups for herself. She asked Captain Wells for permission to attend the first formal meeting as a kitchen observer. She needed to understand how the aliens acted around each other. The meeting room was large and round with 3 sections. The humans sat in the middle, trying to look confident. The Zenthari sat on one side, their crystal bodies reflecting the room's lights in beautiful patterns. The Vex sat on the other side, constantly releasing small puffs of scented air. Ambassador Stone started with a long speech about peace and cooperation. Lisa could tell that he had practiced it many times, but as he talked, she noticed something troubling. The Zenthari were getting dimmer, which meant they were becoming bored or annoyed. The Vex were releasing a sharp smell that the translator said meant impatience. High Curator Veltar finally interrupted. Human diplomat, you speak many words but say nothing new. We have heard these ideas before. Your people promise much but have little experience with real conflict. What can you offer that we have not already tried? Node Prime Clicks released a cloud of purple-scented chemicals. The crystal beings speak truth. Humans smell of good intentions but lack the depth to understand our ancient hatred. You have never felt the pain of watching your children die in war. Lisa felt angry when she heard this. Humans had fought plenty of wars. They understood pain and loss. But she also realized something important. The aliens were not just testing human ideas about peace. They were testing whether humans were strong enough and wise enough to help them solve their problems. After the meeting, Lisa went back to her kitchen and started planning. She could not just make food that tasted good. She had to make food that proved humans understood the aliens and respected their cultures. She had to show strength and wisdom through cooking. She started with the Zenthari. Their crystal bodies needed special minerals, but they also responded to harmonic vibrations. Lisa remembered reading that certain chemical combinations could make crystals vibrate at specific frequencies. If she could make food that created the right vibrations, it might help the Zenthari feel peaceful and relaxed. For the Vex, she needed to think about their belief that eating was sacred. They did not just taste food with their mouths. They smelled it with their whole bodies and felt emotions through chemical signals. Lisa would have to create foods that sent the right emotional messages through scent. She worked for 18 hours straight, growing special crystals in mineral solutions and cultivating bioluminescent fungi in carefully controlled environments. She mixed gases that would appeal to Zenthari senses and created fermented compounds that would communicate respect to the Vex. By the morning of the formal dinner, Lisa had created something that had never existed before. She had made a meal that could speak to alien minds in their own languages. She had dishes that would vibrate with Zenthari harmonics and release Vex emotional chemicals. But she was terrified. Everything depended on whether her calculations were correct. If she had made any mistakes, she might accidentally insult both species and destroy any chance of peace. Lisa put on her clean chef's coat and looked at herself in the mirror. She did not look like a famous champion. She looked like a nervous maintenance worker who was about to serve dinner to the most important guests in the galaxy. She picked up the first course and walked toward the dining room. It was time to find out if her cooking could really change the course of history. The formal dinner was held in the station's largest dining hall. Lisa had spent 3 hours setting up the room exactly the way she wanted it. The lighting was soft and warm for the humans, but she had added special crystal lamps that would make the Xanthari feel comfortable. She also installed air filters that would let the Vex smell each other's chemical messages without overwhelming the other species. The table was long and made of polished metal that reflected light in interesting ways. Ambassador Stone sat in the middle with his diplomatic team. The Xanthari delegation sat on the left side, their crystal bodies catching the lamplight and throwing rainbow patterns on the walls. The Vex Collective sat on the right, releasing small puffs of scented air. As they communicated with each other, everyone looked nervous. Ambassador Stone kept checking his watch and wiping sweat from his forehead. His team whispered to each other and shuffled through their notes. Even Captain Wells, who usually stayed calm in any crisis, seemed worried. High Curator Veltar sat, perfectly still, but her crystal skin was a dull gray color that meant she was not interested in what was happening. The other Xanthari looked the same. They had come to this dinner because it was required for diplomacy, but they clearly expected to be disappointed. Node Prime Clicks and the other Vex were releasing bitter-smelling chemicals that the translator said meant doubt and impatience. They kept looking toward the kitchen door, waiting to see what the humans would serve them. Lisa stood in the kitchen, holding the first course in her hands. It was a small plate that looked like a miniature galaxy. Swirling clouds of edible gas created tiny nebulae in purple and gold. Small points of bioluminescent organisms glowed like stars. In the center, she had placed a delicate crystal structure that would dissolve slowly and release harmonic frequencies that only the Xanthari could hear. She had worked for 2 days to create this single dish. Every ingredient had been chosen and prepared to speak to both alien species in their own sensory languages. But now, looking at it, she wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. What if the aliens were offended? What if they thought she was mocking them? Lisa took a deep breath and walked into the dining room. All conversation stopped when she appeared. She was not wearing the fancy uniform of a diplomat or the expensive clothes of a celebrity chef. She wore a simple white chef's coat and carried herself quietly, like the maintenance worker everyone thought she was. She placed the first dish in front of High Curator Veltar. The Xanthari leader looked down at the tiny galaxy on her plate. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal structure in the center began to dissolve, releasing sounds too high for human ears to hear. High Curator Veltar's entire body suddenly began to glow. Her crystal skin went from dull gray to brilliant white, then shifted through colors that humans had never seen before. The other Xanthari at the table started glowing too, their bodies resonating with harmonic frequencies that made the air itself seem to sing. Lisa moved to Node Prime Clicks and placed the second version of the dish in front of the Vex leader. This one looked similar but contained different organisms that would release chemical messages instead of sounds. As soon as Node Prime Clicks leaned over the plate, the creature began releasing clouds of golden scented air. The translator worked frantically to convert the chemical messages into words. Joy, it said. Wonder, respect, deep appreciation. The other Vex began releasing similar scents. Within minutes, the entire room was filled with the sweet smell of Vex happiness. Even the humans could sense that something amazing was happening, though they did not understand exactly what. Ambassador Stone stared at Lisa with his mouth open. He had expected her to serve simple food that would be polite but unremarkable. Instead, she had created something that was making both alien species react in ways he had never seen before. Captain Wells quietly pulled out her personal tablet and accessed Lisa's personnel file. She had looked at it before, but only briefly. Lisa Martinez, age 32, maintenance specialist, previous employment listed as various technical jobs on different stations. But now Captain Wells dug deeper, accessing records that required higher security clearance. What she found made her drop the tablet. Lisa Martinez was not just a maintenance worker. She was Lisa Martinez, 10-time winner of the Intergalactic Culinary Championship. She had cooked for the Emperor of the Tau Ceti system. She had created the famous Nebula soup that was served at the signing of the Rigel Peace Treaty. She had written 3 cookbooks that were considered masterpieces of xenobiology and food science. Captain Wells looked up at Lisa, who was now serving the second course. This dish looked like a small sculpture made of living coral, but it pulsed with soft light and released gentle fragrances. When the Xanthari touched it, their crystals sang in harmony. When the Vex smelled it, they began releasing scents of deep contentment. "My God," Captain Wells whispered to Ambassador Stone. "Do you know who she is?" Ambassador Stone was too busy watching the aliens to pay attention. High Curator Veltar was now glowing so brightly that she was lighting up the entire table. The Xanthari leader had never experienced food that resonated with her crystalline structure in such a perfect way. Each bite created new harmonies that made her feel peaceful and connected to the universe. Node Prime Clicks was having an equally profound experience. The chemical compounds in Lisa's food were allowing the Vex to taste individual flavors while still maintaining their hive mind connection. This should have been impossible according to everything their scientists knew about Vex biology. The third course arrived, and then the fourth. Each dish was more amazing than the last. Lisa had created foods that told stories about cooperation between different species. She used ingredients from dozens of worlds, combining them in ways that created new flavors and experiences. But the most remarkable thing was not the technical skill she showed. It was the understanding. Every dish demonstrated that Lisa truly comprehended what it meant to be Xanthari or Vex. She had created food that spoke to their souls, not just their bodies. By the fifth course, other beings on the station were starting to notice. Representatives from the Arachnid Trade Guild stopped by to see what was creating such wonderful smells. A delegation of aquatic merhai asked if they could observe the dinner from the viewing gallery. Word spread quickly through the station. The human chef was not just serving dinner. She was creating something that had never happened before in galactic history. Multiple alien species were connecting through shared appreciation of food. Ambassador Stone finally understood what was happening. This was not just a diplomatic dinner anymore. It was a demonstration of something that no one had believed was possible. Humans were showing that they could understand alien cultures deeply enough to create experiences that touched their most fundamental nature. High Curator Veltar stood up slowly. Her crystal body was still glowing with soft, peaceful light. She looked directly at Lisa and spoke in her wind chime voice. "Human chef," she said, "you have given us something we did not know we needed. You have shown us harmony where we expected only politeness. How did you learn to speak to our crystals with your food?" Node Prime Clicks released a cloud of chemicals that smelled like gratitude and amazement. "The crystal being speaks truth. You have created flavors that allow us to experience individual sensation while maintaining our collective connection. Our scientists said this was impossible." Lisa stood quietly in front of the 2 alien leaders. She had spent 5 years hiding from attention, working simple jobs where no one expected anything special from her. But now she was standing in front of beings who represented civilizations thousands of years old, and they were asking her to explain her gift. "I studied your peoples for many years," she said simply. "I wanted to understand not just what you eat, but why you eat it. Food is not just fuel for the body. It is how we connect with others and with ourselves. I tried to create dishes that would help you feel understood." Ambassador Stone realized that the peace talks had just changed completely. They were no longer just about ending a war. They were about creating something new, a way for different species to truly understand each other. And it was all happening because a quiet maintenance worker had decided to cook something special. The formal dinner ended 3 hours later, but no one wanted to leave. High Curator Veltar was still glowing softly, and node prime clicks continued to release pleasant scents that made the whole room smell like a flower garden. Even the human diplomats seemed more relaxed than they had been in weeks. Ambassador Stone tried to start talking about the peace treaty, but High Curator Veltar held up one crystal hand to stop him. "Human diplomat," she said. "We came here expecting to waste our time with meaningless words. Instead, your chef has shown us something we have never experienced. We would like to speak with her privately, if she is willing." Node prime clicks released. A cloud of agreement-scented chemicals. The crystal being speaks wisdom. We also wish to understand how the human chef learned to create such profound experiences. This knowledge could change how our species interact with others. Lisa felt nervous about meeting with the alien leaders alone, but Captain Wells nodded encouragingly. "Go ahead," she whispered. "This could be more important than any formal negotiation." 20 minutes later, Lisa found herself in a small private dining room with the two most powerful beings from civilizations that had been at war for centuries. High Curator Veltar sat across from her, her crystal body reflecting the soft lights in beautiful patterns. Node Prime Click stood nearby, occasionally releasing gentle puffs of curious scented air. "Tell us about yourself, human chef." "High Curator," Veltar said. "Your food speaks to our deepest nature in ways that should not be possible. How did you learn such skills?" Lisa had spent 5 years avoiding this kind of attention. She had hidden her true identity because she was tired of being famous and having people expect miracles from her. But sitting here with these alien leaders, she realized that some secrets were meant to be shared. "I have been studying alien biology and culture for 15 years, she said. "I wanted to understand how different species experience taste, smell, and texture. Food is not just about nutrition. It is about communication, emotion, and connection." She explained how she had spent months living with different alien communities, learning their languages and their customs. She had studied the crystal harmonics of the Zenthari by working in their mineral gardens. She had learned about Vex chemical communication by helping their farmers tend to their sacred crop fields. But why? Node Prime Clicks asked through chemical signals. Why would a human spend so much time learning about species that are not your own? Lisa thought about this question for a moment. "Because understanding others makes me a better cook," she said. "And cooking for others makes me feel connected to the universe. When I create food that brings joy to someone, it does not matter if they are human or alien. We share something real." High Curator Veltar's crystal body began to resonate with a low musical sound. "This is wisdom that our people have forgotten. We became so focused on our war with the Vex that we stopped trying to understand anyone else. Your food reminded us that there is beauty in connection." Node Prime Clicks release sense of deep contemplation. "For our kind, eating has always been sacred, but tonight, you helped us experience the sacred in a new way. You showed us that sharing food with former enemies can create new kinds of holiness." Word about the dinner spread throughout Centauri Trade Station, faster than Lisa had expected. By the next morning, representatives from 6 different species had requested meetings with her. The Arachnid Trade Guild wanted to know how she had created textures that reminded them of their silk weaving traditions. The aquatic Merhai were amazed that her food could work underwater in their breathing tanks. The gaseous beings from the outer nebula had somehow heard about the dinner and sent a delegation to investigate. They did not have solid bodies, but they were curious about how Lisa had managed to create flavors that could be experienced through chemical absorption. Even more surprising, the silicon-based collective from the asteroid belt wanted to meet her. They did not eat food at all, but they had heard that her cooking involved harmonic frequencies that they could understand through their crystalline components. Captain Wells found Lisa in the kitchen, where she was experimenting with new ingredient combinations. "You have become the most popular person on this station," the captain said. "Half the diplomatic corps wants to hire you, and the other half wants to study you." Lisa continued working with her ingredients. She was growing special fungi that could produce colors that some species could taste. "I just want to cook good food," she said. "I do not want to become famous again." "Again?" Captain Wells asked. Lisa realized she had said too much. She looked up at the captain, who was waiting patiently for an explanation. I used to be well known in the culinary world, Lisa admitted. I won some competitions and cooked for important people. But I got tired of the pressure and the attention. I wanted a simple life where I could just fix things and be left alone. Captain Wells sat down across from her. Lisa, what you did last night was not just cooking. You helped two warring species understand each other for the first time in centuries. High Curator Veltar told Ambassador Stone that the Zenthari are now willing to consider real peace negotiations. Node Prime Clicks said the Vex Collective wants to explore cultural exchange programs. Lisa looked up from her work. Really? Really? Your food did something that decades of diplomacy could not accomplish. You showed them that different species can share meaningful experiences without losing their individual identities. Over the next 2 days, Lisa met with representatives from 12 different species. Each meeting taught her something new about how different beings experienced food and flavor. The crystalline hive showed her how they could taste electromagnetic frequencies. The plant collective explained how they absorbed nutrients through their root systems, while still appreciating complex flavors through their flower petals. But the most important meeting came on the 3rd day, when a new ship arrived at the station. It was sleek and black, with symbols that made everyone nervous. The Robotic Confederation had sent a delegation to observe the peace talks. The robots were ancient artificial intelligences that had been watching organic species for thousands of years. They rarely got involved in biological politics, but something about the dinner had caught their attention. Their leader was called Logic Prime Unit 7. It looked like a tall human made of silver metal, but its eyes glowed with blue light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music mixed with mathematics. Human chef Lisa Martinez, it said. We have analyzed the reports of your culinary work. You have achieved something that our calculations indicated was impossible. You have created a shared experience that transcends biological boundaries, while respecting individual species' characteristics. Lisa was not sure how to respond to a robot compliment. Thank you, she said. We would like to commission you to create a dish for our kind, Logic Prime Unit 7 continued. We do not consume organic matter, but we are curious about whether your understanding of sensory experience could translate to electromagnetic and quantum interactions. Lisa felt excited by the challenge. She had never tried to cook for robots before. What kind of experience would you want? We would like to understand what organics call comfort, the robot said. It is a concept that our logic circuits find difficult to process, but your work suggests that it might be communicable through sensory manipulation. Lisa spent the rest of the day researching robot sensory systems. She learned that they experienced the world through electromagnetic fields, quantum fluctuations, and mathematical harmonies. Creating something that would give them comfort would require her to think about cooking in completely new ways. But as she worked, Lisa realized something important was happening. Her cooking was not just bringing different species together for meals. It was creating a new form of communication that transcended the barriers between completely different forms of consciousness. For the first time in 5 years, Lisa felt truly excited about her work. She was not just hiding from her fame anymore. She was discovering new possibilities for what food could accomplish in the universe. Lisa was working in her laboratory kitchen when the alarm started ringing throughout Centauri Trade Station. She looked up from the electromagnetic field generator she was using to create comfort frequencies for the robots. The lights in the corridor outside were flashing red, which meant a large ship had arrived without permission. Captain Wells appeared in the kitchen doorway, her face grim. We have a problem, she said. The hegemony just showed up with a full battle fleet. Lisa felt her stomach drop. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the hegemony. They were a military alliance of the most aggressive species in known space. They made money by selling weapons and starting wars. If peace broke out between the Zenthari and the Vex, the hegemony would lose billions of credits in arms sales. How? Many ships? Lisa asked. 12 warships and a command dreadnought, Captain Wells said. They are demanding to be included in the peace talks. Their leader, War Marshal Thekron, says they have a right to participate since they have business interests in the conflict. Lisa knew this was bad news. The hegemony did not want peace. They wanted to disrupt the negotiations and restart the war. But according to galactic law, any species could request to join diplomatic talks if they could prove they were affected by the outcome. An hour later, Lisa watched from the observation deck as the hegemony delegation marched through the station. War Marshal Thekron was enormous, even by the standards of his species. The destroyer caste were bred for war, with thick armor plating covering their bodies and weapons built into their arms. Thekron was twice the size of a human and moved like a walking tank. Behind him came 20 of his warriors, all armed and wearing battle gear that made loud mechanical noises as they walked. They were clearly trying to intimidate everyone on the station. Other species moved quickly out of their way, and even the station's security guards looked nervous. The emergency meeting was held in the main conference room. Ambassador Stone sat at the head of the table, looking smaller than usual next to the massive alien warriors. High Curator Veltar and Node Prime Clix sat on opposite sides, but for the first time since arriving at the station, they seemed to be on the same side against this new threat. War Marshal Thekron slammed his armored fist on the table, making everyone jump. "We demand representation in these talks," he said in a voice like grinding metal. "The hegemony has invested heavily in the weapons trade between these species. Peace would damage our economy and hurt our people." Ambassador Stone tried to explain that the peace talks were about ending suffering, not protecting profits. But Thekron interrupted him. "Humans," the War Marshal said with contempt, "you understand nothing about strength. You think peace comes from sitting around tables and talking. Real peace comes from being so strong that your enemies fear to fight you." High Curator Veltar's crystal body dimmed with anger. "The armored ones speak of strength, but they know only destruction. They have never created anything beautiful or lasting." Node Prime Clix released bitter-smelling chemicals that translated as disgust. "The war sellers poison the galaxy with their greed. They profit from the deaths of our children." War Marshal Thekron laughed, a sound like breaking rocks. "You call us destroyers, but look what you have accomplished with 300 years of your war. Millions dead, entire systems ruined. At least we are honest about what we are." Argument continued for hours, getting louder and more hostile. Lisa watched from the corner, where she had been allowed to observe as the official chef for the negotiations. She could see that everything they had accomplished was falling apart. The presence of the hegemony was reminding the Zentharian Vex of all their hatred and anger. Finally, War Marshal Thekron stood up and pointed at Lisa. "I have heard stories about your human food maker. They say she created some kind of magic that impressed the crystal beings in the hive mind. I do not believe in such nonsense." He walked over to Lisa, his heavy footsteps shaking the floor. "My warriors eat only the flesh of our enemies and drink their fear. We do not need your soft human cooking. But if you think your food can make warriors weak and peaceful, you are welcome to try." Lisa looked up at the massive alien warrior. Even sitting down, he was taller than she was standing up. His armor was covered with weapons and scars from old battles. His eyes glowed red with genetic modifications designed to make him more aggressive. "I challenge you, human chef," Thekron continued. "Cook for my warriors. Show them this miracle food that supposedly brings peace. When they are unimpressed, everyone will see that human ideas about cooperation are worthless." Ambassador Stone started to object, but Lisa held up her hand to stop him. She stood up slowly and looked directly into Thekron's glowing eyes. "I accept your challenge," she said quietly. The room went silent. Even the hegemony warriors seemed surprised that the small human woman was not afraid of their leader. "Excellent," Thekron said with a cruel smile. "We will hold this test in the main arena where everyone can watch. You will have one chance to impress my warriors with your cooking. When you fail, we will take over these negotiations and show these species what real strength looks like." Captain Wells tried to talk Lisa out of accepting the challenge, but Lisa's mind was already working. She had studied the hegemony species during her years of research. The destroyer caste were genetically modified for aggression, but they were still biological beings with the same basic neural structures as other species. The challenge would take place in 2 days. Lisa spent every moment of that time preparing. She studied brain chemistry reports about the destroyer caste. She researched their culture and their history. She learned about their diet and their metabolism. But most importantly, she tried to understand what strength meant to them. The hegemony believed that power came from the ability to destroy and dominate others. They thought that showing mercy was weakness and that cooperation was surrender. Lisa realized that she could not make the hegemony warriors peaceful in the same way she had helped the Zenthari and Vex. Instead, she would have to show them a different kind of strength. She would have to create food that spoke to their warrior nature while teaching them that true strength could be used to protect instead of destroy. She requested access to the station's most dangerous ingredients. She needed compounds that would activate the deepest parts of the destroyer caste brain, the areas that controlled their sense of honor, courage, and loyalty. She also needed ingredients that would challenge their biochemistry without harming them. The night before the challenge, Lisa worked alone in her kitchen. She was creating something that had never existed before, a dish designed to reach the soul of a warrior and show them what it meant to be truly strong. She thought about all the warriors she had known in her life. Her grandfather had been a soldier who fought to protect his family. Her brother was a security officer who risked his life to keep others safe. Real warriors did not fight for money or glory. They fought to defend the people they loved. Tomorrow, she would have to convince the most violent species in the galaxy that there was honor in building instead of destroying. She would have to show them that the strongest warriors were those who used their power to create peace, not war. Lisa looked at the dish she had created. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, like a sunset over a battlefield. Tomorrow would determine whether her understanding of warrior culture was deep enough to change minds that had been shaped for nothing but conflict. The future of galactic peace might depend on whether she could cook something that would teach killers how to become protectors. The arena was packed with representatives from dozens of species. Word had spread throughout the station that the human chef would face the ultimate test against the most feared warriors in the galaxy. High Curator Veltar sat in the front row, her crystal body glowing with nervous energy. Node Prime clicks released anxious scents that mixed with the air recyclers. War Marshal Thekron stood in the center of the arena wearing full battle armor. His 20 warriors formed a circle around him, their weapons gleaming under the bright lights. They had painted their faces with war symbols and performed intimidating battle dances to show their strength. The War Marshal raised his armored fist and shouted to the crowd, "Behold the weakness of human diplomacy. They send a small female to face warriors bred for conquest. When she fails, everyone will see that only strength matters in this universe." The hegemony warriors roared their approval, a sound like thunder mixed with grinding metal. Other species in the audience moved nervously in their seats. Even Ambassador Stone looked pale and worried. Lisa walked into the arena alone. She wore her simple white chef's coat and carried a single covered dish. Compared to the massive armored warriors, she looked tiny and fragile. But she walked steadily to the center of the arena and placed her dish on a small table. "Mighty War Marshal," she said in a voice that carried clearly through the arena, "I have prepared something special for you and your warriors. But first, may I ask you a question?" Thekron laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the walls. "Ask your question, little human. It will be the last time anyone listens to your words." Lisa looked directly into his glowing red eyes. "What is the greatest victory a warrior can achieve?" The War Marshal seemed surprised by the question. "The greatest victory is to defeat your enemies completely and hear them beg for mercy before you destroy them." "I respectfully disagree," Lisa said. "The greatest victory is to be so strong that your enemies become your allies, to fight so well that others want to learn from you instead of fear you." Thekron snarled with anger. "You speak nonsense. Enemies can never become allies. There is only domination or defeat." Lisa uncovered her dish. It looked like a work of art made from crystallized fire. Red and orange compounds glowed with internal light, while darker elements provided structure and contrast. Steam rose from the surface, carrying scents of iron lightning and something that smelled like courage itself. "This dish is called the Honor of Battle," Lisa said. "It is made from ingredients that will activate the deepest parts of your warrior brain. but it will show you a kind of strength you have never experienced before. She cut the dish into 21 pieces and handed the first portion to War Marshal Thekaron. The massive warrior looked down at the small piece of food with suspicion. "What trick is this?" he demanded. "No trick," Lisa said. "Just food that understands what it means to be a warrior." Thekaron ate the portion in one bite, expecting to taste something weak or disgusting. Instead, his eyes went wide with shock. The food activated neural pathways in his brain that he had forgotten existed. He tasted the satisfaction of defending, the innocent, the pride of protecting the weak, the honor of fighting for something greater than himself. For the first time in his life, War Marshal Thekaron experienced the concept of noble strength. He felt what it was like to be powerful without being cruel, to be feared because others respected his ability to protect them, not because they expected him to hurt them. The other hegemony warriors ate their portions and had similar reactions. Their faces, painted for war, began to show confusion and wonder. The genetic modifications that made them aggressive were still there, but Lisa's food had awakened older instincts, the desire to use strength to build rather than destroy. One of the younger warriors, a female named Battle Sister Kexara, spoke, up first. "War Marshal, this food, it makes me remember stories my grandmother told me. Stories about warriors who fought to protect their families, not to conquer other people." An older warrior nodded slowly. "I feel it too. The satisfaction of victory without the emptiness that usually follows. How is this possible?" War Marshal Thekaron stood in silence for several minutes, processing sensations he had never felt before. His entire worldview was built on the idea that strength meant domination, but Lisa's food had shown him a different path, the strength that came from being protector rather than destroyer. Finally, he looked at Lisa with something that might have been respect. "Human chef, what you have done should be impossible. You have shown me feelings that my genetic programming was designed to suppress. How did you accomplish this?" Lisa stepped closer to the towering warrior. "I studied your people for months. I learned that before your species was modified for war, you were protectors. Your ancestors were guardians who used their strength to defend their communities. That instinct is still inside you, buried under layers of artificial aggression." She gestured to the dish. "The compounds in this food temporarily suppress the genetic modifications that make you crave violence. They allow your original nature to surface, the part of you that wants to use strength for good." War Marshal Thekaron was quiet for a long time. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the arena. He removed his helmet and knelt down in front of Lisa. "Human chef Lisa Martinez," he said in a voice full of wonder. "You have shown me what I was meant to be before they changed my DNA to make me a weapon. You have given me back my honor." He stood up and turned to address the crowd. "I declare this human to be the greatest warrior I have ever encountered. She did not defeat me with weapons or force. She conquered me with understanding and wisdom." The war marshal turned back to Lisa. "The hegemony withdraws our objection to these peace talks. More than that, we want to learn from you. Can you teach our people how to be protectors instead of destroyers?" High Curator Veltar stood up, her crystal body blazing with bright light. "The human chef has accomplished something we thought impossible. She has turned warriors into guardians with nothing but food and compassion." Node Prime clicks released clouds of amazed scented chemicals. "The armored ones speak truth. This small human has shown us all what true strength looks like." The arena erupted in cheers from dozens of different species. Representatives who had come expecting to watch a disaster were instead witnessing the birth of something new, a galactic community based on understanding rather than fear. Ambassador Stone stood up with tears in his eyes. "In all my years of diplomacy, I have never seen anything like this. Lisa Martinez has not just brought peace between two warring species. She has shown us a new way for all species to interact with each other." 6 months later, the peace treaty, signed at Centauri Station, became known as the Harmony Accords. It established the first truly inclusive galactic alliance, with humans serving as cultural ambassadors who help different species understand each other. Lisa never returned to her maintenance job. Instead, she became the first culinary ambassador, traveling between worlds to help resolve conflicts through the universal language of food. Her ship, the Harmony, carried chefs from dozens of species who learned her techniques and philosophy. The hegemony transformed from a military alliance into a peacekeeping force that protected trade routes and defended peaceful worlds from pirates and raiders. War Marshal Thekron became their first guardian prime, leading warriors who used their strength to build rather than destroy. Lisa's approach to diplomacy spread throughout the galaxy. Instead of starting with treaties and negotiations, first, contact teams now began with shared meals. Cultural exchange programs focused on teaching species about each other's food traditions and eating customs. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most powerful weapon against hatred and misunderstanding was not superior technology or military might. Sometimes it was simply someone who cared enough to cook a good meal and share it with others. Lisa Martinez had started as a maintenance worker hiding from her past. She ended as the person who taught the galaxy that true strength came from bringing others together, not tearing them apart. And she did it all with nothing more than her understanding of food, culture, and the universal desire to be understood. The universe was a little bit smaller, a little bit kinder, and a little bit more delicious because one quiet human woman decided to cook something special